Funny how people unsubscribe from your life without notice. One day they swear forever, the next they're gone. But hey, if you're here, hit subscribe. It's free, unlike loyalty. Growing up, I was the youngest of 5 siblings, but not just by a little. I was 7 years younger than the next in line. You'd think that would make me the baby of the family, the one everyone doted on, but no. If anything, I was the forgotten one. Invisible. My siblings had struggles, mental health issues, illnesses, constant hospital visits. My parents were always consumed with their problems. And me? I was fine, which apparently meant I didn't need attention. I wasn't sick. I wasn't causing trouble. So I just existed. I wasn't resentful, at least not at the time. I learned to entertain myself. I read books, played video games, and kept to myself. No one expected anything from me. I wasn't forced to take care of my siblings like some kids are. My parents handled everything. But that also meant I slipped through the cracks. There were no check-ins, no deep conversations, just the occasional, "How's school?" if they remembered I was there. The only people who truly saw me were Mia and Clara, my best friends, my real family. Their lives were eerily similar to mine. They too were the overlooked children of chaotic households. So we clung to each other. Even after high school, we stayed close, went to college together, and eventually moved to another state, creating our own version of a family, one where we actually mattered. Once I left, my relationship with my parents became even more distant, which honestly wasn't a shock. We had barely spoken when I lived there. Why would that change now? My mom would send the occasional text asking about school or work, but that was it. Surface level. Safe. Then, out of nowhere, she called. It had been a year since our last phone conversation. The last time she called was to tell me the time and place of my sister's funeral. That was it. No, how are you? No, are you okay? Just logistics. So, when my phone rang this time, I knew something was up. She wasn't calling to check in. She wasn't calling because she missed me. She was calling to ask when I'd be home for Thanksgiving. Except, I hadn't even known they were planning one. We weren't a Thanksgiving family. In my entire childhood, I could count on one hand how many times we actually sat down for a holiday meal. It wasn't a thing for us. So why now? And why did she assume I'd just drop everything and come running? I told her I already had plans. I was going skiing with Mia and Clara. We had been planning this trip for months. Plus, I lived 2 states away. If she had really wanted me there, maybe she should have mentioned it before now. But instead of understanding, she got angry. She started guilt-tripping me, saying she'd be alone because my dad was driving 2 hours to visit my brother in his facility. She painted this picture of herself as this abandoned, lonely mother, completely ignoring the fact that she was the one who had kept me at arm's length my entire life. I calmly explained that I couldn't come. That it wasn't just a matter of hopping in a car. I would have needed to book a plane ticket weeks ago. But she wasn't listening. She snapped at me, accused me of not caring about the family, and then hung up on me. Just like that. I sat there staring at my phone, feeling this weird mix of anger and guilt. Now I was the villain? Now I was the selfish one? After years of being ignored, I was suddenly expected to show up like a good little son? Later that night, I sent her a text. I kept it polite. I told her I'd love to see her and Dad after the new year, but I couldn't make Thanksgiving or Christmas because of my trip. She didn't respond. I should have moved on. I tried to move on. But something about that phone call stuck with me. She hadn't called to invite me. She hadn't even mentioned Thanksgiving before. She had just expected me to magically know and comply. Days passed. I focused on my ski trip, trying to shake the frustration. Then, suddenly, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my dad. And that was a big deal because my dad never texts me. And I had a feeling I wasn't going to like what he had to say. When I got the text from my dad, I thought I had to be misreading it. "If you don't come home for Christmas, I'll stop paying for your college tuition." I actually laughed. What tuition? I had graduated years ago. Was he confused? Did he think I was one of my siblings? I read the message again just to be sure. It was so random, so out of nowhere that for a second I genuinely thought he might be joking. So I texted back, "Dad, I graduated a long time ago. And if you think you're still paying for my college, you might want to check your bank statements because you're being scammed." I assumed that would be the end of it. A simple mistake, an awkward realization, and maybe even a my bad from him. But instead, a few hours later, I got another message. This one was much angrier. I was ungrateful. I was selfish. I didn't appreciate all the sacrifices they made for me and my siblings. I sat there stunned. What sacrifices? First of all, I never asked them for anything. Second, my grandmother paid for my college. She handled everything herself, made it very clear she didn't want my parents interfering, and they never contributed a dime. So what was my dad even talking about? I was getting pissed now. Look, I get that they're under stress with my siblings. I really do. But trying to guilt trip me for something they didn't even do? That was a whole new level of ridiculous. I took a deep breath and responded, I'm sorry you feel that way, but Grandma paid for my college. I'd be happy to catch up after the holidays, but I already have plans. I kept it polite, thoughtful. That should have ended the conversation. It didn't. Dad exploded. He went full dramatic mode, accusing me of abandoning the family, saying I was turning my back on them, and then, his grand finale, telling me that if I didn't try harder, he was done supporting me. I just sat there staring at my phone. Supporting me? Supporting me how? They had barely noticed I existed for most of my life. They didn't check in, didn't ask how I was doing, didn't even talk to me regularly. And now, because I wasn't dropping everything to rush home for a holiday they never even cared about before, I was suddenly the villain? I needed to vent. I called Mia and Clara. Mia was quick to point out the obvious. They don't actually want to see you. They just don't want to feel guilty about not seeing you. Clara, as always, was blunt. Screw them. You don't owe them anything. She was right. But even after our talk, I still felt unsettled. That feeling got worse when my phone buzzed again. Another message from my dad. This time it wasn't a guilt trip. It was an ultimatum. If you don't come home, don't bother coming back at all. My stomach dropped. How had we gone from barely speaking to being disowned in a matter of days? I just sat there staring at the words, feeling numb. I wanted to lash out. To remind them of all the times they had ignored me. Of all the times they had made me feel like I didn't even belong in that house. But I didn't. I put my phone down and went to sleep. I refused to let them pull me into a full-blown family meltdown right before the holidays. I wasn't going to play their game. I wasn't going to beg them to accept me. The next morning I woke up to more texts, this time from my mom. We're disappointed in you. We don't understand why you're acting this way. We hope you'll reconsider. I actually laughed out loud. Distant? Now they were realizing I had been distant? I had been aloof my entire life and they were just now noticing? I ignored the text. Instead, I focused on packing for the ski trip. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. No guilt. No sadness. Just relief. And then, right in the middle of the drive to the resort, my phone buzzed again. Another message from my mother. But this one was different. It wasn't another guilt trip. It was a warning. If you don't come home soon, we'll have to start making decisions about the future without you. And you won't like it. I felt a cold weight settle in my chest. This wasn't about Christmas. It never had been. They wanted me back for something else. Something bigger. And I had a feeling I wasn't going to like what it was. I thought I was finally free. I had my own life, my own goals, and I had made it clear that I wasn't about to be dragged back into my family's endless cycle of guilt and expectations. But, of course, it was never going to be that easy. A few weeks after returning home and settling back into my routine, I got a message. It was from Jake. I actually had to stare at my phone for a moment. Jake. We hadn't spoken in months. Maybe longer. He was my older brother, and growing up, I thought if anyone in my family could understand me, it would be him. He wasn't as sick as my other brothers, so maybe, we could have bonded. But he was always too caught up in his own world. Too busy, too distracted. Just like everyone else. Still, seeing his name pop up made my stomach tighten. The message was short. Hey, we need to talk. I frowned. I wasn't exactly in the mood for more family drama, but curiosity won out. About what? I texted back. A few minutes later, my phone rang. I hesitated for half a second, then picked up. Hello. Jake didn't even bother with small talk. He jumped right in. Mom and Dad are planning to make you the boys' legal guardian. I nearly dropped the phone. For a few seconds, I just sat there, my heart pounding, my brain refusing to process what I had just heard. Was this a joke? A prank? Were they seriously planning to dump this on me, after ignoring me for years? Finally, I managed to find my voice. What the hell are you talking about? Jake let out a sigh like I was the one being unreasonable. You know how things are with Mom and Dad. They've got a lot on their plate with the boys. They're not going to be around forever, and they need to know someone's going to step up and take care of things when they're gone. I felt my face heat up. My pulse thundered in my ears. And they think that someone is me? I snapped. After everything? After the way they ignored me, guilt-tripped me, barely even treated me like part of the family, now they just assume I'm going to drop everything and take over their mess. Jake hesitated. Look, I know it's a lot, but you're the only one who's really stable. The rest of us, we've got our own issues. I actually let out a sharp, bitter laugh. Yeah. Well, maybe you guys should have thought about that before now. I was shaking. This wasn't just about Thanksgiving anymore. Or Christmas. This wasn't some last-minute guilt trip to get me home for the holidays. This was long-term. They hadn't even considered talking to me about it until now, until it was convenient for them. They had been planning this, making decisions about my future without even asking me. Trying to wrap my head around it, I exhaled sharply. So what, they've been discussing this behind my back? Just decided I'd take on the responsibility without even asking me? Jake's voice was calm, matter-of-fact. Yeah, pretty much. They've been planning this for a while. I went completely still. I stared at the wall, my mind racing. I knew it wasn't really Jake's fault. He was just the messenger. But that didn't change the fact that I wanted to scream. I thought my parents had already given me the biggest slap in the face possible. I was wrong. This wasn't just about doing them a favor. It wasn't about helping out during the holidays or being there for an emergency. No, they wanted something much bigger. They wanted me to spend the rest of my life cleaning up after them. I had spent years being ignored, on the sidelines, invisible. And now, suddenly, because I was the only one with my life together, they had decided I was their fallback plan. I was supposed to drop everything. Move back home. Give up everything I had worked for. I exhaled sharply, gripping my phone. So what am I supposed to do? I asked, my voice tight. Just throw away my entire life? Pack up, move back home, and pretend this is normal? Jake didn't have an answer. Instead, he launched into a weak attempt to justify it. You have to understand. Mom and Dad are struggling. Taking care of the boys isn't easy. I cut him off. I don't care. I said it without hesitation, and I meant it. I was never the issue. I have been ignored my entire life, and now that they need something from me, suddenly I'm important. Jake hesitated. It's not like that. It's exactly like that. I snapped. I'm not doing it, Jake. I will not be their safety net. They haven't cared about me for the past 25 years, and they have no right to expect anything from me now. Silence. Then Jake, in a tone so patronizing it made my skin crawl, said, I get it, I do, but you're still part of the family. Family. That word. I wanted to scream. Oh, now I'm family? I shot back. Where was family when I needed them? When I was growing up, alone, invisible? Where was family when I had no one? Now that they need me, suddenly I'm part of it? Spare me. Jake sighed. Look, just think about it. No. I cut him off and took a steady breath. Tell them I'm not interested. And don't call me about this again. Then I hung up. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I had taken control. I sat there staring at my phone, my whole body tense. It was like my entire existence had been leading up to this moment, the moment I finally said enough. Enough of being used. Enough of being ignored until it was convenient for them. Enough of the manipulative texts, the guilt trips, the expectations. I wasn't their safety net. Days passed. Silence. No texts. No calls. I knew what they were doing. They were waiting. Expecting me to come to my senses, to realize what a good daughter was supposed to do. But I had no intention of giving in. Then a letter arrived. A letter. As if we were living in the 1800s or something. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity got the better of me. It was from my mother. And, of course, it was filled with the same manipulative, guilt-ridden nonsense I had heard before. She talked about how hard things were. How much they needed me. How they didn't know what they would do without my help. But it was the last part that really got to me. Olivia, we're not asking for much, she wrote. All we need to know is that someone will take care of the family when we're gone. That was when it clicked. This was never about me. They didn't want me back because they loved me. They didn't want me back because they missed me. They wanted me back because I was the only one who hadn't broken. I wasn't their daughter. I was their backup plan. I crumpled the letter in my fist and tossed it in the trash. I was done. Or so I thought. A week passed. Then two. And then my phone rang again. An unfamiliar number. For a second, I hesitated. I had been ignoring their numbers for weeks. Maybe it was them again trying a different tactic. But something in me was curious. So I picked up. Hi, Olivia. This is. They really thought I would just step in and make things right for them. After everything. After years of them not caring about me, ignoring me, treating me like an afterthought. Now, when they were desperate, their band-aid solution was me. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to keep my voice steady. I'm sorry to hear that, but I can't just drop everything. I have a life, Sarah. I heard her sigh, long, tired, frustrated. I understand that. But you're the only one who can help. You know what's happening with the boys. And Jake is barely holding himself together. Olivia, there isn't anyone else. Her words cut deep, but they didn't change the truth. I could feel the heat rising in my face, the rage building inside me. And whose fault is that? I shot back. They ignored this for years, pretended the problem didn't exist, let everything pile up, and now it's my responsibility? Just because I got out? Just because I built a life for myself? Sarah hesitated. I know it's unfair, she admitted, but this is where we are. They need help. There it was again. The same old guilt, the same old tactics. No matter how far I tried to get away from it, they always managed to pull me back. I clenched my jaw, my hands gripping the phone tighter. When I spoke, my voice was sharper than I intended. I'm not doing it, Sarah. I won't clean up their mess. They didn't give a damn about me when I was a child, and they sure as hell don't get to come to me now, just because it's convenient. Silence. When Sarah finally spoke again, her voice was quieter, almost pleading. I understand, Olivia, I do. But this isn't about them. It's about the family. It's about what's going to happen to the boys when they're gone. If we don't step up, who will? That hit me harder than I expected. Not because I felt guilty, but because for the first time I saw how trapped we all were. My parents weren't just using me as an escape, they had done it to all of us. We were just pieces in their game, pawns in their mess. And my siblings, the ones who couldn't fight back, were stuck in the middle of it all. I took a deep breath. I'm sorry, I said again, softer this time. But I can't. I won't. There was a long pause. I could hear the disappointment in Sarah's silence. But I held firm. At last she exhaled. Okay, she said flatly. Then before I could respond, she added, I'll tell them. And she hung up. I sat there for a long time, staring at my phone. Feeling guilty. Feeling relieved. I knew I owed my parents nothing. But that didn't mean it didn't sting. It hurt knowing that my family was falling apart and there was nothing I could do. Or maybe there was something I could do. I just wasn't willing to destroy myself for them anymore. A few days later, another letter arrived. This time, my mother didn't even bother with pleasantries. It was all guilt. She told me how disappointed she was in me, how I was failing the family, how she couldn't believe I would abandon them when they needed me most. She rambled on about how hard things were. But there was one thing she never mentioned. Me. Not once did she ask how I was. Not once did she say she missed me or that she loved me. Because this was never about me. It was about what I could do for them. I folded the letter neatly in half, then in half again. Then without hesitation I threw it in the trash. I was done. For real this time. Search. Reason. My mother's last letter was the cruelest one yet. She painted herself as the victim, talking about all she and my father had sacrificed for us. She called me selfish, ungrateful. She said she didn't know what she had done to deserve such a self-centered child. And for a brief moment it worked. That same old, familiar sting of guilt hit me, just like it had all throughout my childhood. But then I remembered. I remembered all the years I had been invisible. The times they had forgotten about me. The moments when I had needed them but they had never shown up. They didn't want help. They wanted control. They wanted to pull me back in, to make me feel like I owed them something. But I didn't owe them a damn thing. Just like the last letter, I ripped it up and tossed it in the trash. I was done. For real this time. To make sure of it, I blocked their numbers the next day. Jake's too. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was the right one. They could no longer guilt me into believing that their problems were my responsibility. They had to live with the choices they had made. And for the first time in my life I felt free. The final test. Weeks passed in silence. No calls. No messages. No guilt trips. I was finally in control of my life. Then one day there was a knock on my door. At first I assumed it was a package. I wasn't expecting visitors. But when I opened the door, there she was. My mother. Standing on my porch like she had every right to be there. I had no idea how she found me. I wasn't hiding, but I hadn't expected her to show up at my home. She looked older. Tired. Worn down. Maybe it was just the weight of everything finally catching up to her. But I felt nothing. No sympathy. No guilt. Just exhaustion. Why are you here? I asked, keeping my voice as calm as possible. She hesitated. Just stood there, staring at me like she didn't recognize me anymore. Then finally she spoke. Olivia, we need to talk. I let out a slow sigh. No, we really don't. I've said everything I needed to say. My decision is made. She took a small step forward like she was about to push past me. But I stood firm in the doorway. I wasn't going to let her in, physically or emotionally. Her voice softened. Please just listen. Your dad, he's getting worse. We don't know how much time he has left. He's in and out of the hospital and I don't know what to do. And there it was. The final card she had been holding on to. Your father is dying. She didn't say it outright, but I knew that's what she meant. I'm not heartless. I didn't want my father to be in pain. But I couldn't just drop everything and go running back to them, not after everything they had done to me. I swallowed hard. I'm sorry, I said, keeping my tone steady. But this isn't my problem. You and Dad had years to figure this out. You can't just show up now and expect me to fix everything. She looked at me like I had slapped her. I'm not asking you to fix anything, she whispered. I just need you to be there. For the family. I let out a short, bitter laugh. For the family? You mean the one that ignored me for 25 years? The one that only calls when they need something? That's not a family, Mom. That's manipulation. Her eyes widened and for a second I thought she might argue. But instead she broke down crying. Right there on my porch. I didn't know what to do. I wasn't cruel, I didn't want to see her cry. But I also couldn't let myself get pulled back into this endless cycle. I took a deep breath. I get that this is hard for you, I said, softer now. I really do. But I'm not your backup plan. I'm not the one who's going to come in and make everything okay. You made your choices. And now you have to live with them. She wiped her eyes, looking up at me. And for the first time I saw it. The guilt was fading. It was turning into anger. We did the best we could, Olivia, she snapped. You have no idea what it was like, raising 5 kids, struggling just to keep things together. We didn't have time for you because we were trying to keep everyone else alive. The same excuse. The same justification I had heard my entire life. And I was done listening to it. That's not my fault, I said firmly. You chose to have 5 kids. You chose to focus on everyone else and leave me behind. That was your decision, not mine. And now you're trying to make me feel guilty for it? No, I won't. She stared at me for a long moment, like she was trying to recognize me. Maybe she didn't. Maybe because I had never caused trouble, she still saw me as that quiet, obedient child, the one who would take whatever scraps of attention I could get. But I wasn't that child anymore, and I never would be again. At last she spoke. So that's it? You're just going to turn your back on us? I shook my head. No, Mom. You turned your back on me a long time ago. I'm just finally walking away. She had no response. She just turned around and left. I watched her get into her car and drive away, feeling an odd mix of emotions. There was sadness, of course, but mostly relief. It was over, and I had finally let go of something I should have let go of years ago. The aftermath. For weeks after that, there was silence. No calls. No messages. Nothing. And for the first time in my life, I felt good. I focused on my life, my friends, my job. I wasn't looking over my shoulder, waiting for the next guilt trip. I had moved on. Then, about a month later, an email arrived. It was from Jake. Not my parents. Just 2 sentences. Dad died last night. Thought you should know. I stared at the email for a long time, unsure how to feel. I wasn't shocked. I had known this would happen eventually. But I also wasn't sad. I wasn't anything. I thought about replying. About calling Jake, checking in, offering condolences. But then I realized, this was just another opening. Another way for them to pull me back in. And I wasn't falling for it this time. Without responding, I deleted the email and went on with my day. Because for the first time, I understood. I wasn't a part of their world anymore. And I was finally okay with that. Does this story resonate with you? Have you ever felt trapped in a toxic family dynamic? Have you ever had to make the painful choice to walk away? If this story spoke to you, let us know in the comments. Share your thoughts, your experiences, your strength. And if you haven't already, like, share, and subscribe for more real-life stories that reveal the truth behind family, love, and self-respect. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away.